Okay. Do I need to stop it all?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's them. Yeah, since they can hear you.
Yeah, so that was a problem. Me.
Danny said good to go.
Yeah,
Can he hear you?
okay, good. Thanks, Danny, about that.
Thanks, Danny. Thank you.
Hey, Danny, let us know if there's a weird feedback loop with my microphone being on. I'm finding I have to mute it and then unmute it. But anyways, to revisit, you know, having like a randomness uh, that even like major bands use,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Helps because it actually makes you more creative as an artist
Yeah.
and
It's a
to think of
challenge.
those patterns, you know, and then it's a different technique that you also end up like putting in your repertoire.
Yeah, it works. Can I say what it was?
Sure.
Well, you
Yeah.
told, well, basically, let me give the background. It was the song we're going to record next Saturday. We're going to do two. We're going to do Crash and Burn, and we're going to do Mayhem Ma'am. But Crash and Burn is the first one we're going to do, and I have lyrics for it. And we're going to actually do three guitar takes. The first take is just the rhythm track that I sing over and play the lead over. But the second take is another rhythm part that's different than any of that just comes in on the solos. So you can hear a different texture than just the straight rhythm part. And the Matterator brilliantly said, for that second part, do one of these five techniques. And the first two of them were play power chords. Second one was mute it. Oh, that's what I can do. So let me show what that might have been. So the first rhythm part that just is the song chords, that's going to also play during the lead is something like this with the Wiseman chord. It's all Wiseman chords. So I'm not in tune. At least I know that.
Yeah, it's really out of tune. I tune that up.
I thought I just sucked for a second. I thought, wait a minute, I'm not. Then those two parts, and then for the solo part, I'm going to do a solo that fits those chords. But he said, put a third track in between the two. That's a rhythm part that's just for the solo sections. And I was doing tunnel vision and just going to go like this. I was just going to go. All Wiseman chords, but just arpeggiated and slower, not so many chords, not so many fast harmonic rhythm, which is the rate of chord change. But Manor didn't want me to end there. He said, don't do that. For the middle part, I want you to use two of these five techniques. And the first one was play a power chords, and the second one was mute it. So guess what? That turns the second part, or the rhythm, the other rhythm part into this.
Yeah, it has more. It has more. It has more of a beat to it, you know.
Yeah. First of all, that is so different than the other part that it stands out and makes the song
exactly.
More beautiful.
Yep.
And secondly, it's more punchy. It has more balls and rock. but it matter. It's the Matterator's idea in the sense that he said, don't do that. Do two of these 5 techniques, and one of them was power chords, and one was muted. Oh,
Well,
that's
actually,
what
it was a little bit of AI there. So what do we call the AI guy?
I think we call him Bob the Alien, because and then
Yeah.
plus Arnold Schwarzenegger is Uncle Bob in Terminator 2, so let's call him Bob, or Uncle Bob. I respect Uncle Bob. Basically, he was T2 in Terminator 2, and plus, there's an alien called Bob, a real alien that actually is on the Earth. Yeah,
The
Bob.
other thing, the only other thing I think we probably, but the only other thing is it would be helpful that I have a little breathing room when I go to mix. So the
Yeah,
idea there, when I go to mix, there's no such thing as having too much kind of
material.
material to pull from. So
Yeah.
I would even pick. We give different renditions of it. So do pick another one out of there, like so you have
A
2.
lot of the other ones were like using effects for octave and things that I'm not an
Well, I
effect.
like the arpeggiated section there you have too when you first started out. So you may
Oh, you mean
even
this
just
one here?
yeah
This one?
yeah
Like that too?
yeah
No such
yeah.
thing as too much material.
Well, what I'm saying
If
is
you
you
had
could
a
do a
different,
version. You do a version
yeah, okay, I get it.
of both, and then later on,
You can
it
decide.
you're giving me a crayon box with different colors. Is what you're doing.
Oh,
You know what
dude,
I'm saying?
that is a great producer, dude. Now I'll do that 4 takes, and he can choose between the other 2 how he wants. So yes, one will
Yeah.
be all that. The other one will be
And don't forget, the
yeah,
other thing too. Here's the problem. Here's a problem without playing in a band when you're coming up stuff as a solo artist. Is
yeah.
you want to fill the sound space with just your noise, right? But
There's that.
as far as like song creation goes, sometimes it's appropriate and powerful to just completely drop out of the song.
Right, right, right.
And it allows me to bring another instrument in,
Yeah,
right? Whether it's
yeah.
a bass or a keyboard or something
Uh-huh.
that kind of and then when the guitar gets reintroduced,
Yeah,
now it's even boom, it has even more of a punch, right?
yeah,
So the idea is you take this lull. It's kind of like the way I think it's like nature, like it's like the tide going in and out, right? You have
yeah,
ebbs and flows, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
so
yeah.
you can't just have all flow.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Matt? The
Yeah.
matter
So there's got to be a
yeah,
counterpoint like
yeah,
within the song that lets things kind of rest, and then
yeah,
when the ocean comes back or the emotions or whatever come back in, they come
yeah.
flooding in, and
Well,
it makes it more impactful, you know.
that's another thing.
Or even this, real quick, even a quiet piece. So think of this, like some sort of interlude or some sort of like very delicate piece that it dances through,
well, I can do
right?
this. I can do this with it. You made me think of this. So while the main rhythm, just once again for repetition's sake, for the main rhythm part, it's now as a 5th idea, I could even make it less busy than I have been. I could just go.
Oh yeah, well even that may be too fast. What's funny is
Oh,
you could
even
actually just
worse than that. Okay, try this. Try this.
take this, try this real quick. Try this. I just want you to pick 3 notes. And all I want you to do is just modulate them. Hang on them a little bit, feel it, and then modulate to it. Just for a
All
little
right.
bit, very delicately.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Here I try this.
No, I would do one note, do one string, and give it a little bit of a slur and a waver, and let it harmonize just into space, and
All
then
right.
go to the next note.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that last one you did, that third note, let
Yeah.
that ring out even more, and
All right.
let it bend it even more. So
All right.
do the
Yeah.
2 and then the last one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the DA part would be
See how that has like a different whole different cadence.
yeah.
Maybe it drops to because you're letting those hang out, it builds tension. The whole idea is to build tension, to challenge the listener, right? To go, okay, what the fuck is he doing now? You're not just flooding all this information to him. You're like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it breaks down to this real quiet point where you're still sticking with the same notes, but you're
Yeah.
playing them and you're letting that note ring out to where it creates this dissonance. It creates this tension with the listener.
It creates
You know?
anticipation, like the
Yeah,
ketchup.
it creates this tension, this longing
Yeah.
for, and this is what I'm saying. This is the ebb and flow. So this is the ebb
Yeah.
occurring. You're building up that ebb.
Oh.
It's the water's retreating, right? And it's retreating, and it takes forever to retreat. But then when it returns with a vengeance, a slow building or what have you.
Like a drop in EDM, the build up and the drop.
Yeah.
I can do this 4 times. I'm gonna get my note here. The 4th time here.
Yeah, but what I would do instead of being formulaic with it, which I think you tend
Play
to
around
do.
with it. Just play around with
Well,
it.
listen to the note and let it take you somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen to the note, and it's hard because it is an acoustic guitar, so
Yeah,
you're not going to get the flavorings that a good electric would give, but still.
Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And the next key.
You know what I was thinking you can do? Try. You know what you do?
Yeah.
So remember, we were always talking about Stripes and the Tiger, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you? The first part of that, do a quick little diddle-loot, and then go whoa, and then go on one of those notes.
All right.
Quick little doodaloo, yeah, same notes. Quick little run.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, because you're not changing the Stripes and the Tigers much.
Yeah. No. Do a quick little scale, like you were doing last night. Remember, you were going up the neck.
I get it. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but instead of a strum, do just hang on one note.
Okay.
Yeah, but no. Now, what I would do is go do a quick strum and do a couple. Don't be so quick to rush into that note. Just do it real quick and then hit it very clearly and let it ring, that last note.
Okay.
No, it's still a strum, just a single pick of a string.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Now maybe you can do, hey, you know what? I was thinking maybe you can do a slow stepped piece. So do that real quick and then do a slow step piece where you do 3, 2 or intonations, and the last one you stretch a little longer and ring out. Does that make sense?
Intonation, stretching. Okay.
No, more like you're doing, you do a ba 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 ba, then go dun dun dun, something along those lines. Yeah, I mean that's a good flavor,
Yeah.
That'd be something we can work on,
Yeah.
That's an option, because that's more of a classical thing, right?
What?
Where that's more of a classical thing where you're doing a bit
Yeah.
of a run, but then you're coming in,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Remember that one song I showed you, Diane Urez, the concert concerto?
Yeah. He
With
was barely playing anything, but it was so dang emotional.
he played it with the
Yeah.
clarinets,
He was playing this really slow.
but it sounded really good, and that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying is maybe you go into a very harmonic, really, you know, with drum. I don't know, a real a piece that kind of builds tension.
yeah. Oh. It's just the rhythm part to the solo. So maybe I could do
Yeah.
after you said all that, let me try maybe what I might think of it. Now I'm just gonna be me. I'm not gonna do exactly what you said, but let's try what I think I might be able to do. So remember the chord progression. Now I might do this with it. This is just being me, but taking your thoughts. For that solo, that's what comes out for me. You're not just making it one chord. That's kind of like not my forte, like the one chord challenge, solo over one chord. I
Yeah.
like to do more than that. But I did take only three notes, and I did do it slowly and arpeggiated, but I went between two chords. And I'm more comfortable with that for some reason. Just tell me to only play one chord, and I feel like you're putting me in a
Well, I mean, it's just to throw. It's actually is to throw a little bit of discomfort that way to see
yeah,
what
yeah,
can work.
on purpose to make me get out of my box. Well, that what I just did
Yeah,
might
just
work.
to kind of build a different cadence and kind of a slowdown, a
Yeah.
natural lull. Like I said, a
I've got
natural.
an
What is an
idea.
ebb?
I got an idea. I
Yeah.
swear to God, I wouldn't have got this without your help, and I just now got it. At the very end, as the song trails off, I didn't know how to end it because the chords are crash and burn, 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 crash and burn. And then at the end, we could go. That could be like the outro. And that sounds I didn't know how to end it because if I just go,
Yeah.
that didn't sound very
Yeah.
good. That sounds incomplete. But if I go crash and burn, crash and burn,
Yeah,
crash
but don't
and burn.
forget. Hey, wait a minute. Not to be
Yeah, whatever.
not to diminish it, but that also could be a keyboard part.
There
Like
you
it
go.
doesn't have to be. It
But
doesn't have to be
but I would want
guitar.
you to play those notes. I'd have to
Yeah.
I wouldn't want any keyboard you think of. I would want it to be these notes. Yeah, it could be keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
my whole thing, like we talk about that, you can't like
I know. I
people
can't tell you
people in the
what to
chat and all
play.
that. Well,
I
hold
can't
on, let me express my whole thought here, okay?
yeah.
People like on the chat, oh well, you just like to shred this that. Look, you naturally have a certain cadence, which is great. We're not changing the stripes on the tiger at all.
No,
Like
we're
we
not.
always need to return to that, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you're not trying
You
to.
know,
It has got you to get me to work well because I'm not sacrificing myself at the altar of something else. And I won't do that. But if you allow me to not have to sacrifice, I'll fucking give you more than you think I will.
well, the idea is to
That's a problem
build,
with God
yeah.
and things, but I'm not going to go into that right now. You
Well,
know,
yeah, but you already have kind of the high highs. You just can't stay at the high highs all
right,
the time.
right.
You gotta build that ebb in, and then the high highs make
And,
you know,
and
and
ironically,
that's essentially a counterpoint in music, where the counterpoint is actually a purposeful put, muddied part of the music that sounds dissonant, that builds dissonance, and then so you're building a trough, right?
yeah,
And a lot of bands do that. You build a trough that builds dissonance,
yeah,
and then the highs, when you eventually build to that high,
higher.
it makes it sound that
You know,
much brighter.
and
But
that's
if you're always high up here all the time,
right. I know.
trying to do sweet tunes all the time,
Right. I know.
it loses its
Right.
impact.
Here's
You
another
know.
thought I could do. And you guys already have the rhythm. I don't have to play it every time. Another thing I could do is a compromise between what you just talked about um, in the last 10 minutes and also the power chord thing. I could do this. it's not power chords, but it's got the muting thing, and it's simple and only 2 chords like the power chords were, but it's got the Weisman chord idea rather than just the. And I could do both. You could take whichever you wanted. I think that would work. Like that just got in my brain. It's going to be the one part will be, the other part will be, and you can even do it at the same time, which would really be interesting harmony. Believe me, if you did this at the same over this, you really don't know what the f, because I can tell you right now that's going to sound really different than we're used to hearing. Because I'm not even sure what that'll sound like, but it'll be weird.
Well, the idea is when we go to record, so we, like I said, you give me as many
Yeah,
colors
colors
that
would be,
you can, and
yeah,
then when I post produce it, I can kind of move stuff around
yeah,
and make something really really good out of it.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
very interesting. You know.
yeah, and thinking of the idea of colors, crayons. When you go to color, you don't take it all. You don't analyze. You don't plan everything. You just kind of have fun. I could really just go into the recording sessions with more of that attitude. I know what I'm going to record, but I could do other things just for you to have that choice.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is you
Yeah,
have a
I could
basic
go. I could go
framework.
there. I
You
could go
know.
there and do a take where all I go is, let's give you one band that could go with the lead, and then, if you don't like it, just throw it away. But you never know, that might be useful. While I'm shredding, you could have one of me
Yeah.
going.
Why
I don't know.
I like Vangelis. Vangelis, he's the guy that did the Blade Runner soundtracks.
Oh, dude, that
He
was awesome.
was originally part of the Greek Beatles, okay, called Aphrodite's Child, right? That's where he started out in.
Right.
By the dude died last year, but
Sorry.
he put out the Blade Runner soundtrack. He did Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
He was like amazing. If you ever watch,
Challenge. Can I do Chariots of
well,
Fire?
wait a minute, real
Okay.
quick. Let me
Go ahead. Do
finish
your thing.
my
Do your thing.
conversation here, real quick.
Sorry, man.
So what he did is, first of all, he learned music all on his own. If you watch videos of Vangelis, he has these keyboards and he has these old school loopers that had like these old like turnbuckle things that run, right?
Yeah.
And he actually had his own musical notation on them.
Mm.
Like he didn't even notate music with standard notation. Like he didn't know any of that. So he made up all of his own notation. But the one thing he said, when you hear a note, okay, a very single note, you think that that's simple. And he says, you don't realize how many years it took to place that one note where it's at.
Right.
So when I see you and you're doing like, well, maybe I can just do this or that. No, actually, you need to put more thought into that one note than you do the whole other guitar piece. Like those slower parts, that's the difference between a really good classical musician and a rocker.
Right.
Classical music is the hardest when it's played the slowest. The
Right.
slowest parts are the hardest parts,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying is that when you think about putting in these slower parts, you really have to spend more time on how you're formulating that ebb. Because if you do it rushed, if you
Right.
do it like just, oh, I'm just going to throw in this ebb,
Right.
it's going to come off that way. It's going to come off as kind of
I
contrived.
do try to be genuine with my music. I try not to come off with any.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
I know.
we instead of just thinking, oh, just rhythm, this, that, think of a melodic part that we can build in like a break, and that would be a good challenge. Like I said, maybe not this song, but maybe it's not appropriate for this song. I
Right.
don't want to force it into the song if it's not part of the
No,
song.
it
But
can't be like
eventually, it would be
even
good to
that could
have
be a
that.
cookie cutter formula. And I don't do that. I just go with the flow, and I go with what I
Yeah,
feel.
I'm just saying, we need to put more thought into those
Okay.
the slower parts. And then when you go, we already know you have the speed. Like that's not an issue, right?
Right.
Like that's your hammer, right? But
Right.
not everything can be a nail and a hammer.
Right. No, I get it. I get it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyways.
um, Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to try this as a test to me. I've never played Chariots of Fire in my life, but let's see if I can do it. I've heard it before. This is a test. Let me see if I can do it. I swear I've never played this. Wait, wait, wait. I don't think I can. Um, I can't. But whatever. I don't know it well enough, but I've heard it. I heard it in the '80s. I heard it. Da, 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 da. Oh, wait. Something like that.
Yeah, but see that's actually sounding pretty good. Where you like,
Yeah.
for instance, on that last note, you're really listening. I can tell you're kind of hanging on it,
Yeah.
and then to me that would build in this like this delicate part to any of the songs, like it, a complete break and into this real delicate that you put an amazing amount of thought into,
Right, right. Well, if someone did
would
something
be.
wrong, but in my defense, I haven't heard that in like 30 years, and I've heard it like 10 times, and I played it with.
Well, I mean, like I said, this
Yeah.
is not an attack. We're simply talking about the song. It's not an attack here,
I know. It sounded like it was from him. Whatever. I don't care. Anyway, let's go on. So we're gonna do Crash and Burn. And I also wrote Spacey Stacy last night. Stacy called me, or I called her, and she thought of the title Spacey. Stacy is in space, and that was catchy enough to me to make a song out of it, even though I never used that exact line. I call it Spacey Stacy, and it was supposed to be like a rhythm and 50s rock type of thing, rhythm and blues. Well, but it came out the way it did. It actually turned out to be an E in the key of E, and it uses the oldest progression, and it just sounded cool to me. And I did it in one take, and it's called Spacey Stacy. And the Matterator likes at the end of it. I did something I don't usually do, but I like to hear other people do. The end is a part of the progression, but without any vocals. So since it sounded so bland, I would throw some notes in between the chords. So without singing it, the part was like this. It was. Let me get the notes here right. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, I think I know what I'm doing now. Okay. And something like. It wasn't. He likes that better than if I just went.
Yeah, I know. I like the ending of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it keeps the audience listening, and it's entertaining. I think to hear something like that. It's more interesting.
Okay,
Yeah. Yes.
let's get back. We had talked about production wise. We had talked about the challenges of um, LRA. Remember that?
Yeah, it's
Which was
expression. Recording with less.
yeah. Well, the loudness units.
Yeah,
So
loud units.
when we've been recording, we've been compressing the signal too much.
Right.
And what we want to do is we want to keep things at minus 18 dB and get clearer signal.
Right.
Also, we had phase issues when we were recording the cabinet and the pedals.
Right.
So this next time, like we talked about last night, we're gonna split the signals. So we're gonna record off of your favorite amp with the diaphragm mic,
Right.
And then we're going to straight plug in the signal. We're going to split the signal, and it's going to go right into the audio interface.
Right.
So we'll get a clear signal,
Oh.
and then we'll get your tone, because you can't play if you don't have like the right distortion
I
or
just
tone.
start playing, dude. I can't. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
But the problem with taking what we've had, the problem is if you have too much flange or too much distortion, it's not capturing it properly. When I post produce it, I can't take things out a lot of times. I can add distortion in,
Right.
but it's much harder to take it out. So
Yeah, you don't
you
want
need a
garbage
clean
in that you
signal.
can get rid of. You'd rather be able to have a clean thing that you can add garbage to if you want to.
And the last song we had, uh, remember, it was so flat because it was so compressed, the main rhythm part. Even though it's weird. When you listen to something and it sounds flat, it sounds like someone's voice on the radio. It doesn't sound like it has real like raw depth, you know?
Right.
So and that's because it lacks that dynamic range.
And that's because of compression. It compresses the dynamic range.
Yeah, and so we're going to up our game as far as the recording
We
process,
are.
make sure that we're really sticklers with how we record that raw signal.
Yeah.
And we may have to set it up and have you play it through a few times just to make sure we had the impedance down right.
Right.
Um, we also remember we talked about your coil being too hot, but actually you driving it like that actually causes less resistance in the guitar
Right.
and drives the amp more when you have less resistance.
Yeah.
The only, I guess, the only downside to that is supposedly, and I've noticed this in recordings, is if you drive it too much at 10, for instance, all the way up on the knob,
Right.
the high end tails off. And I noticed that with the recordings. Like if I look at an EQ spectrum
You lose the
of your
high
signal,
frequency because it's all
yeah,
distorted.
it drops off around, I don't know, it starts dropping off around 14K. So it takes the brightness out of it.
14K.
And then I have to add the brightness back in
14K is hertz.
via
That's
EQ.
frequency. That's how high the note is. And he's saying if you compress a signal, you lose the high pitches that are in it. Because when you hit a string, you're not just hearing that pitch, you're
Yeah,
hearing all the overtones and this and that. There's all kinds of. That's what's beautiful about
yeah,
a stringed instrument. It has all the overtones, and you lose a lot of that if you compress it.
yeah. That's why I'm not going to use the Boss compressor we have.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't think that the Boss compressor, it just doesn't have enough feedback for me. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the ProComp compressor,
Yeah.
which also has a gating function, and it has a meter there, so I can actually like
Let's
really
gauge again.
fine tune the compression. We want a little bit of compression just to
Yeah.
kind of keep the high highs off, but not
Yeah.
so much. And what we probably do is do a few tests when we're there prior to the whole recording process.
Yeah. Test to
You
make sure
do,
we're getting a good recording process before I start cranking out tape.
yeah, I can actually post produce it or create a wave file real quick and see what the LRA is on it
And you know how
and the
the recording is
LUFS.
good, and we're doing a good
Yeah.
job. Yeah, that's a good idea. Don't come right in and start playing. Just noodle with it. Make sure we got a good sound first. Right. And let me talk. Can I talk about the poll thing? I want to talk about that. So,
Yeah.
Matterator was googling. He uses AI, which I call Bob. And I had a thought. It was my thought. The pickups on my black guitar, Black Gem guitar, Junior, were too hot. And I had a thought to ask Bob. I said, "Do the pull?" And we found out later these are called pull piece screws. Do the pull piece screws have anything to do with the hotness of the pickup? So he asked Bob, and Bob said not only yes, but there's a certain way to set them up. First of all, you should start out in tune, which I'll talk about a difference in that in a minute. But then you should make the pole pop pieces kind of arch according to the arch of the neck. In other words, the middle strings are higher and the high strings and the low strings are lower, so it makes an arc like the curvature of a natural guitar neck, at least one that's not flat. Usually, they're very rarely are guitar necks flat. That would be an infinite radius. But you have a radius that's curved, curve those, and then make sure all the strings are equally loud and punchy. So it's a process you have to do over and over again to make sure you get it right. Because when you move one of them, that alters the whole mix. So I did that to the black gem guitar, and it sounds great. First of all, because of that, because I have every pole pot. There's two of them. There's two sets on each double coil pickup, so there's four sets total, which is 24 different pots because the six strings and 6 times 4. But I did it like 5 times over. It took me like 45 minutes to even do just that. It took me time, and then on top of that, the moderator asked Bob if um, if Eric Johnson's tuning idea is helpful, and if so, why? And his idea is he doesn't just tune all the strings to the right pitch. He tunes the treble strings, the high strings a little sharp, and the bass strings a little flat. So it's actually widening out the spectrum between the high and the low string. And for some reason, just my thought that I even had before we asked Bob, so that makes sense because if you have a wider range, you can even it out better because you have more range to work with. The guitar is not perfectly tuned. Even the half step is only an approximation. It's 2 to the 12th power over 1 is the ratio of a half step. Well, that's first of all, 2 to the 12th power. Um, I mean, not 12th power, 12th root. 2 to the 1/12th power, which is the 12th root of 2, is an irrational number. So over 1 is still the same. How do you do that? It's impossible. And not only that, um,
So there was another benefit to it. Is
yeah,
one is that when you bend strings over time,
yeah,
it helps the guitar sound better over the period of the piece. Because,
yeah,
as you know, if you use the whammy bar, and
yeah,
that's one reason why you have the pedal
right,
for our recordings, is that the whammy bar is great, but the guitar goes out of tune within that recording process. By
yeah,
the end of the song,
we are the two,
you're now running flat or what have you,
yeah,
right?
right.
So the idea is if you tune up a half step, by the end of the song, not only does it still sound good, but by the end of the song, you're probably right dead even, you know.
Well, first of all, I don't
Um,
tune up a half step because that puts stress on the guitar and makes the strings likely to break and pop and hard to play. And second of all, if I'm still going out of tune, I might as well go from out of tune to flat as well as from sharp to normal. I don't ever,
yeah, but the big
and that's not
takeaway
the
from it
question.
is
The
the
issue
big
comes,
takeaway is that if we do the rhythm parts and the other parts of the song, they should be straight tuned. The lead doesn't have a problem. It can be kind of whatever tune it wants to because it's the
right.
lead.
So what I was,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I was, that gives me to think. Yeah, I think that's a point. So when we record the rhythm parts, I'll just be straight. But when I record the lead, I'll put the treble strings a little sharper and the flat strings a little flatter. And that wasn't what you sounded like. You're saying you talk about tuning to sharp. That sounds like you're saying tuning to F, and that's not what I'm talking about. I think you know that, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
still tuned to E, still tuned to A440.
Just a little off. I
But
get
just,
it. I,
but just tune the
I get
treble
it.
strings sharper and the bass strings flatter. I'm not tuning the whole guitar to F. I would never do that. I mean, I'd give you that guitar afterward because it'd all be fucked up. Excuse me, because it would be so stretched out of tune and the strings would be breaking and nobody tunes to F. You tune E to E or you tune flatter than that as far as your general tuning, E flat, D, but nobody tunes to F. It just hasn't been done. But I know, I understand. It's like as if you have like um if all these intervals in between this space can't be perfect, if you spread it out, it gives a little more room to make it sound perfect. A guitar will actually sound more in tune if the treble strings are sharper and the bass strings are flatter. But the only problem is if you're using keyboard, the keyboard is not forgiving. The keyboard is tuned to match exactly that pitch. So the offside is when you play the treble strings, you'll be out of tune with the keyboard. And when you play the
Yeah.
flat strings, you'll be out of tune with the keyboard.
Hey, by the way, you know what's great about us talking technically like this?
We're actually making
It's
music. We're making music
well,
secondhand.
more importantly, is the audience changes.
Mm,
So the trolls show up to dig into their troll bag, right?
yeah,
And they try making comments, which you don't read anyways. I do,
I
right?
get 'em. Yeah.
and then we end up boring them to tears. And they end up, because typically people like that, their brain power is challenged anyways.
Yeah.
They tend to move on to greener pastures, like Johnny Elbows or Daniel Larson, or
Right.
these other characters. They go back to their troll sites to get orders from
The Boy
whoever,
Scout,
right?
Boy Scout leaders. You call
Yeah, and you know, yeah. Will viewership take a little bit of a hit? Yeah, but it's the viewership we don't need.
it. Right.
All
Right.
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 So I get it. You're funny. You're always going to do kind of funny things just because the whole Aspie thing and all that. So
Right.
that's a given. Um, but if someone's looking for the Johnny Elbows shit stained pants, then
Yeah.
they kind of have to. They're going to probably have to go somewhere else. You
Right.
know what I mean?
It kind of. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where, like, it's funny because with the song, what is it?
Kissing death.
Kissing Death. Remember, everyone always accused you of being on meth and this and that,
Yeah.
fentanyl.
They did. They
And
did.
we said, okay, well, people accuse you doing that. Let's take ownership of it.
Let's just do it.
Let's make a video. Let's
Let's,
make a video about it.
let's own up to it. Let's own
Yeah.
the sucker.
Then the other one was humor, of course. They're trying to be
You can even do that.
humorous, and
You can even do that.
and so we came out with the spaceship, and we do stupid music in the spaceship, and
We're making fun of ourselves.
again, that's make fun of ourselves. Now that, of course, kind of disarms people. They're kind of like, well, how can you make fun of people making fun of themselves? It's boring.
Yeah.
So that's how we know.
Can I take
That's
that?
how you're successful, when the haters
I
want to
want-
take.
Yeah.
Put it this way: when Pudge
How's
was
that?
entered into the contest, finding Waldo, or finding the grapist, as I call him.
Yeah.
You ever hear of the Whitest Kids You Know? It's a comedy troupe.
No.
About
No.
15, 20 years ago. They came out with this one skit where they had this guy. Well, you just have to look it up. It's called The Grapist. Instead of the rapist, it's called The Grapist.
Got it.
So I call it Pudge the Grapist, right? So what's interesting, though, is when the tables are turned on those people, and his face is put up on graffiti walls, and they can't handle it.
Right.
So the only thing they can do,
the thing in the 80s,
they only,
but they can't take it.
yeah, the only response to have is to say, basically, I throw in the towel.
Right.
I give up. It's like pinning someone on the mat where you're just going, they're tapping the mat. They're tapping it, going, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And so they're gone for 30 days. Personally, I hope that, like, the 30 days turns into 60, turns into 90.
Would the next be 20?
Yeah, because you just don't need it. Yeah, just don't need it. But that's okay if they're back. That's fine. But my challenge to people, though, is if they're gonna be be funny.
Yeah, be funny about it. Yeah.
Don't say, oh, you got the poopy pants, or you're gay. You're gay.
Well,
it's like,
something.
look, after you hear that, for like, it's so funny. What's hilarious is a new troll comes on and they say the exact same thing that someone else has said 100 times, yet they think it's funny.
Right, right.
And it's not even. It doesn't bother me or you, or it doesn't. It's just boring.
It's boring. Yeah. I want to thought about. I don't have to defend my sexuality. I know I'm not gay, but I had my dad, my 6'3" Navy SEAL dad had this one friend named Ron Rooney that was his friend before he became Illuminati dude, and he didn't dump him. He kept him as a friend. And this guy Ron Rooney was so confident. One of my dad's friends. You get that, right?
I don't want to go down the Navy SEAL.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it. It's my channel. Please let me finish. He would He would go into a bar and go, "Hey fella, how you doing?" He would actually fake like he was gay because he was so confident. And the guy would think he's gay for a minute, and he would go, "Screw you, see ya." He would actually act it just for fun. He would play gay just for fucking fun. And that dude was a badass. That dude was my dad's friend. You want to fuck with that guy? And yet he would play. He would pretend to be gay just for fun at bars, and just and talk to my dad afterward. It was so funny.
Well, like I
Yeah,
told you before, I mean,
I know.
there's all this concept of thinking the most dangerous person in
I
the
know, I
room
know.
is
You're gonna
somehow a
down the Navy SEAL
6'5".
thing too, because that doesn't.
If you look at a gang,
Yeah,
if you want to know the most dangerous person in the gang, it's usually the smaller guy in the
fair
gang.
enough. Fair enough.
It's the unassuming guy that you would never know about. That's the guy that's the most dangerous because it's not the size of the dog, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And I hate to say it, but people that are little shorter, a little diminutive, they're the ones that are shooting up these churches and doing other things. It's not the six
Fair
foot
enough.
five
Fair enough.
Navy
Fair enough.
SEALs.
Fair enough. But I
In
know.
fact, we had a good one where I talked to you about what was it?
But in my defense, though,
Major winners. Remember command company here, not company heroes.
you tell me.
Band of Brothers. Remember that where
No.
winners, major winners, or whatever it was. They were saying like,
Yeah.
what is it like to survive the war? And this guy was the most badass guy ever. He goes, you want to hear what it's like? Okay. You think it's like some big man walking down the street? No, he was walking down the street, and a kid took a stick across the street and ran it across some metal posts.
The guy dove into a ditch because he thought it was gunfire.
Well, no one else has heard
What
this.
a pussy
Okay, so
he
I want
was.
other people to hear it. Okay,
Okay.
it scraped along, and he literally, just by reaction, he jumped into the gutter, face down.
Well, you know what?
He didn't even think about it. And this is years after the war. That's a war veteran.
My
It's
dad's
not
second-
about.
My
It's
dad's
not
second-
about it. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's not about being a hero. It's not about being I'm the
It's not being a
badass
fucking
Navy
kid with a
SEAL.
stick, right? That's the badass, right?
He was the badass, but guess what?
Yeah.
He was scarred from it. That's what happens.
Okay.
It's
Fair
actually
enough.
it's the exact opposite of what you
None of you
think.
out there met my dad. My dad's second cousin was Jesse James, by the way. His grandma's maiden, my dad's mom's maiden name was James, and you never met my dad, and you're going to talk shit about him already. You don't even know him. Maybe
Well, all I do know is what you told me, and all I
you're
know is that
misrepresenting
like
him.
a sergeant,
I'm
Sergeant
misrepresenting
Winters.
him. But my dad isn't in a ditch. He never was, and he's my dad. It's
Yeah,
not
but
his
he isn't
fault
gonna.
if I
You know, look,
it's not
dude.
his fault if he's
dude,
a Navy SEAL. It's not his fault if he's 6'3". And I
Well,
don't.
I get it, but
I
also, guys.
didn't see any of the.
Yeah.
I didn't see any other. I did not see any of the other little short daddies taking him on either in the 80s.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
a Sergeant
but,
Winters
but.
isn't going to make a young kid, okay,
Yeah.
who's 9 or 10 years old, who has like Asperger's and other auditory type things, and make him stand on a front porch for 6 fucking hours.
What are you even talking about? Who's that?
That was you.
I wasn't hearing things. If that's what you were implying, I'm not schizophrenic, dude.
No, I'm not saying that.
You just said you were
Why are
hearing
you?
things.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean then?
You told me it was either it was you told me that your dad once had you stand out in the front porch
I did not say front
for
porch.
like
I did not say I heard. And what did I say I heard? Tell me. How did I hear things?
that
I've never
he would
hallucinated
let
in
you
my
come
body.
in the house. He made you stand at attention in the front porch for like 6 hours.
How does that have to do with hearing things?
Well,
And I
who
said I
does?
could stand at attention. Okay, so what did I say
Yeah.
I heard? Why'd you say that? Why'd you make me sound like I'm crazy? Explain.
Well, I didn't make you sound like you're
You
crazy.
said I
That's
was
what you
hearing
said to
things. What
me.
did you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean by I'm hearing
What?
things? Explain yourself or take it back. You
I
said I'm
didn't
hearing
say
things.
you were hearing.
You said a
What?
9-year-old kid that was Aspie and hearing things. What does that mean?
I didn't say that.
What you, yeah, you did.
I said
You said
I heard from either you.
Okay. Keep going.
I believe it was from you. You told me that your dad made you stand out in the front porch
But
for
yeah,
like 6 hours.
I thought you said that I was hearing things. What the heck?
Well, I doubt anyone here on this chat
I've never
heard the same thing
hallucinated in
you
my
did.
life.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy, and I don't do drugs. So why would I hear this?
Well, first of all, you didn't hear it right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I suggest listening. Okay,
Okay.
just listening
I
for a
guess I don't know how
while,
to do that yet. I
and
don't know.
truly get, instead of trying to rush ahead guessing what
Well,
I'm saying.
you're just downing
Yeah.
my dad because he was 6'3" and he was a SEAL. And you,
Oh
nine,
no, I was
10-year-old
I
kid
was
could just.
yeah, I was downing there's this weird dichotomy where
Yeah, there
you
is.
want to you want to complain about how your dad
And you
was
want to put him
was
down.
abusive, but at the same time he's this great guy. I'm
Yeah, but
sorry.
at least I was
There
put down.
yeah.
At least I wasn't put down by a PUSSY. The guy was a badass, and he hit me. I was not hit by a little dude that couldn't hold his own. Okay,
All I'm saying
and
is
then
I
plus he
gave
was
you an
my dad. So
example.
yeah,
I gave
I
you
have, I have the
exam
right. I have the right.
I gave you an example of
You
winners.
say Navy SEALs are pussies and get over it, Jimmy.
No, I'm saying guys that
Huh?
it's
Then
not
you know,
one flavor. It's almost like I told you before. It's like in the '80s when everyone was about Bruce Lee and kung fu, and they didn't realize they're being sold a bill of goods,
yeah. Well, you
right?
never met my dad, dude. At the end of the day, you never met him. So
No, he probably was, but you know, big guys like that don't beat up on kids either. So you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
and you don't know you're right just because you. You're not.
Well, hey, look, I'm only going off what you tell me. That's
Okay.
it.
So I mean, either I'm a liar or he's a bad person because I misread.
I'm not calling anyone anything. I am simply talking about the red meat on the table.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
what is your fight?
This is what you know. When
You like
people
to be part of
call
my
in, it's
daddy.
just like, could you let me speak?
Yeah, you've
Could you
been
let me
speaking.
speak?
You speak a lot.
Could you let me speak?
Go
Okay,
ahead. Listen.
there's an overarching point I want to make here. I'm
Do it.
very consistent in the way I think. Okay.
And I'm not.
I don't like people that come in and are monolithic about anything. I don't like people coming into your channel saying that you have to play guitar a certain way.
All right.
It's not monolithic. It's not this monolith of somehow this is the way it is. So when I hear anything that's like panaceic, monolithic in any way, shape, or form,
I get it.
if
My dad.
someone says, "Oh,
I get it.
this is a kung fu guy," he's the top. No, no, fuck you. He's not, because then jujitsu came out and kick its ass, and then you have you have street fighting that came out. So
I'm not even a fighter, so I don't care. I'm just trying to
well,
say
but
he's
whatever.
my dad. You're trying to say he's a dick. He's trying to say
That's
he's a
just
pussy. He's my dad was
that's
a man.
analogous. No, that's analogous. I'm not
You're
saying
comparing him to
I'm
a
not.
guy in a ditch because of
Did
another.
I say? Did I say? I'm not the one that
You didn't
said
say it, but it's by
your
implication.
dad was a. I'm not the one. I've had a very well balanced view of your dad.
Okay.
Okay,
Basically, but the
I
nine
could
kids to take a
understand.
stick
Look,
and put him in a
I
ditch.
can understand the frustrations, and we've talked about this before. I can understand you can understand they didn't have a category for any of that when you were growing up.
Yeah,
So
whatever.
we talked about that. A guy who they adopted a kid, uh, him and his wife, and then they probably expected whatever from like it's not easy raising kids in general, and then to have someone that is a little challenged they didn't have a name for, right? Um, it led to things where maybe with job stress, this and that. I mean, there's also sorts of excuses that can be made, but at the end of the day,
I give you
when I
white
hear
flag, dude.
stories,
I listen to you now. I don't care about defending my dad. I really don't care. At the end of the day, he hit me anyway. So what the heck? But no, but then
okay, well,
I
let's
can't
say,
be proud of
I'm
what he
not.
did do
Yeah.
though. I can't be proud that he helped this country and that he was an Illuminati dude because that just would be inconsistent of me. I got to choose my side and not eat my cake and have it too. So decide. It's either A or B, black or white, and I'm not
Well,
going to
then
do
you
that.
know
I
what?
don't care.
If it's always going to be a bone of contention, let's just not bring it up. Let's just
Okay,
continue
fair
to talk
enough.
about music. You know?
Right, but it
Yeah.
came up and then it brought.
Because I mean, I'm gonna if you're gonna ask me, like I'm gonna have an
I
opinion.
didn't ask you really, but we're talking about it. But I'm saying you're saying your
Yeah.
opinion, and you never met my dad.
Well,
So
if it comes up, like I said, if it always if our conversation talk about music and
I hope
you're the
it
one
doesn't
that turns
always.
it around, yeah. But if you turn it around in a personal conversation about
Yeah,
the
so it's not
Navy
my
SEAL
fault. I
thing,
turned it around because it happened. It must be my fault. I'm sorry. Just forget it. Okay. I was just talking what comes. Okay.